Thanks for coming to my session. Starting session after the lunch is always challenging. There is only one time when it might be more challenging, which is before the lunch. So I hope I will make it, and you have your coffee already. So in next about hour, I'm going to share with you my and my team experience with implementing large mobile solution combined with some backend BPM integration. My name is Jaroslaw, but I'm Polish, so in Poland my name is typically called Jarek. So my name is Jarek. We can say I'm solution architect in services department at Red Hat. Services department at Red Hat basically is responsible for professional services delivery, and it's also part of sales, or to be more specific, a pre-sales organization. So one day I'm sitting on the project implementing some stuff, other day I'm in front of the customer trying to convince him or them to invest in Red Hat solutions. So to set your expectations properly, the story I will tell you will be mostly about mobile. It will be around mobile solutions. It will be a little bit about cloud, very little about middleware, specifically BPM solutions. And depending on the time, I will tell you a little bit about the way how Red Hat innovates on the market. So this is the slide where I should ask everyone in front of me, who of you doesn't have a smartphone in your pocket? But if there would be like 200 people, maybe there will be one or two people who don't. But with limited audience, I will skip that question because I suppose that it might be everyone might have it. Okay, so before we go into more technical details about the solution, let's start with some short discussion or overview about what really makes mobile solutions, mobile applications special compared to, let's say, traditional development or traditional web-based or entire applications. So there are a number of differences which could be summarized in two words, which you will see a few times on the next slide. So it is about the fragmentation and about the diversity. So first of all, we have a lot of different mobile platforms. So we have different types of devices. We have at least two major mobile operating systems. There is every of those systems has their own framework to develop the applications. There are also some framework which are aiming at letting you write your code once and then deploy it on different platforms. On the other hand, there is quite a lot different types of backend systems that you will integrate, because it's obvious thing that your mobile application will have to communicate with some backends that you host or your partner hosts. Those backends could be modern or old-fashioned. This could be they could run on-premise in your data center. This could be some cloud solutions. Could be anything. Another thing which I really started to mention is the fragmentation of toolkits. So there are many different frameworks that you can use to develop applications. You have different types of applications, so you have native applications, you have some mobile web applications, you have those frameworks where you can write code just once and then deploy it to different mobile operating systems. There are also some IDEs, development environments with some built-in frameworks, so there is really a lot of different technologies that you can use. And this is very much connected with the diversity of development teams. So each part of your solution could be, of your mobile solution could be basically built in different technologies. So you might have really different teams. Also in large organizations, quite often those teams are separated geographically, so they might be you might be really kind of part of some kind of a virtual team. What is also quite specific to mobile is that there is much larger frequency of upgrades and new deployments of your applications, and also of some backends of your application. So this is also something that must be considered when you plan and implement your solution, that there may be much shorter life cycle of your application. There might be some much more frequent releasing. So you have to start thinking about some agile or DevOps methodologies. Next thing is, of course, the security concern. So in general, especially if we develop business to customers applications, we will not have a full control over the distribution of our application. So it means that basically everyone could get access to our application. So we have to think how to develop the application securely. And the last thing, which is quite often, is a pressure from the business, from the stakeholders, from the business owners of the projects, to have a really to deliver very fast and very often and frequently new features, cool functionalities, cool user interfaces with our applications. So all those facts or challenges needs to be really considered when you start the development of mobile platform or mobile solution. So having in mind all those challenges, let's start thinking how we can build the architecture of our solution. So we can start with typically well-known entire architecture, which is used for many years to build some web, in most cases web-based or entire applications. Typically in this architecture, we are going to use application server. However, the first challenge that you might face here is the fact that the majority of application servers, especially those which are longer on the market, they implement blocking I/O architecture, which basically means that every request until it will be processed will consume some resources, which means that the scalability of the application server instance might be or will be limited, and this might create challenges related to building some scale-out architecture. Of course, we might take the approach where we will try to replace just the front-end layer. So we keep backend as it is based on the application server, and we just develop a new front ends which consumes some logic which is exposed by the middleware. However, with that approach, again, especially if we develop business to consumer applications, we need to think how we will handle traffic which could be hundreds of thousands or millions of clients, which might translate into tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands requests per second that will be hitting our infrastructure. So here we have to start thinking about the technologies which are currently named and named as a cloud technology. So basically, what I'm talking about here is to use a middleware which is designed to run in scale-out architecture. As you can see on the slides, we have here a BPM. So BPM platform, I will spend now 2 minutes on that. So business process management system essentially is a system where you can model and automate business processes. So if you work with corporate customer, they typically all they do in IT, they automate processes. For some processes, they will use some packaged ERP systems, but for some, especially for processes which are changing frequently or they span across different systems, they might need to use dedicated platform where those processes will be modeled and automated. So BPM system typically is used when the customer is facing at least one of those three challenges. So they need to have a better visibility of the process, so who is doing what, when, how long, and so on. Second thing is, which I already mentioned, is about agility. So when we have processes which are changing very frequently, they might not fit well into packaged applications where which typically cannot be updated too often, too frequently. And the last thing is about the consistency. So we want to be sure that the process, the instance of process will be processed exactly in the same sequence of step, no matter who is doing that. And for that purposes, we as a Red Hat offer a solution called BPM Suite. This solution essentially consists of two major components. So we have a modeling tools, so the tools where developers or analysts can design the process, draw the model using the BPM N20 notation. And then there is an engine where you can deploy the process and automate that process. So the engine, because we are talking about long-running processes, so the stateful processes where we need to have to save a state of the process between some steps, is using database, relational database. This database also can store some key performance indicators, so some statistics of our processes, so that we have we can use dashboards to visualize the process, to monitor the business aspects of the process. And there is also integration with the possibility to integrate the engine with front-end applications, including the mobile applications. So there is a very nice modern API based on the REST protocol, which expose all the logic related to interaction between the process and the user, so that when you design your mobile application, you can quite easily integrate it with that API. So now let's come back to our discussion about the architecture or aspects of mobile solutions. So the next thing which needs to be considered is the security. So there are a couple of very important aspects. So first of all is, are we going to have full control over the distribution of our mobile application? Then there will be there is a question about how the application is going to communicate with the backend. So what kind of techniques or protocols we are going to use. The next thing which is also important is the API management. So basically our backend will expose some APIs which will be consumed by our mobile applications, and we have to think about especially about versioning. We have to consider how services will be consumed, or the API endpoints will be consumed by different types of mobile applications. The next thing, which also is part of the solution, is to have a platform where we will be able to create a common build process, which will let us link separate sub-projects. So sooner or later you will have a dependency where specific version of your mobile application will depend on specific version of some APIs in the backend. So it's important to have a platform which will be able to take care of that, because at scale it might be really a big challenge to be able to test and to deploy version of mobile application which will be connected with the specific API. So moving into the real solution, so there are a couple of things that we discovered as a crucial components of the overall architecture. So first of all, we really recognized and we experienced that traditional application servers with blocking I/O model, they do not really fit well into that infrastructure. They don't really fit well as this backend part of the solution, and for that there is for a few years there is a new type of middleware designed, which is called mBaas, which stands for a mobile backend as a service. And these are solutions which are designed to deliver two types of functionality. So first of all, they are based on non-blocking I/O model, and secondly, they support scale-out kind of cloud architecture. And we as a Red Hat, we currently use two solutions. So first of them is Node.js, which I think is quite well known. So the framework, which I think was built originally by Google, and now it's very popular to implement the middleware. And second one is Vertex, which is developed in Java, where we as a Red Hat has a quite large contribution. And it could be also used to build this kind of solutions. However, this so using just this technology as a backend is not enough. So the next thing that we recognize as a best practice in this area is to really have a to try to build as lightweight mobile applications as possible. So it means that it's much better to have a majority of kind of core technologies running here as part of this middleware. So you don't see really that this is really all the middleware. So basically the things like security, the things like data synchronization, things like data caching, all those functionalities, they should be implemented in the backend, and you should try to avoid building too much logic into the mobile applications. And all those experiences and best practices, they are really aggregated by us, by Red Hat, and they are implemented and delivered as a one platform, which is called Red Hat Mobile Application Platform. So this platform consists of three major components. So this blue part is developer part. The green is the this mobile backend as a service runtime. So basically, in this developer part, we have the environment where you can build your application, develop your application, test your application. There is a lot of out-of-the-box SDKs, templates that you can reuse. All of them that are aiming at helping you in building very lightweight mobile applications. So here you are not enforced to use any specific framework. You might use any framework you like. This platform is not really developer environment where you will code your application. This is a platform which delivers some frameworks, SDKs, and which will manage life cycle of your application. So this is the second part. So I will show you how this is looking like from the developer perspective. In general, the idea is that developer on his workstation will have just the IDE with the framework he likes, where he just codes the application, and then the code is committed into the platform, and on the platform we have all the build, testing, staging, and deployment processes implemented and automated. So this is a developer part. The second part is mobile backend as a service. So we deliver a lot of out-of-the-box connectors and frameworks implementing different functionalities. And of course, we have a runtime where this backend could be deployed and executed in a cloud scale-out architecture. So from the developer perspective, just a few slides to give you an idea how this platform looks like. So this is a main project page. So everything in the platform is organized into the projects. So each project consists of three parts. So here on the left hand side you have the mobile applications. As you can see, there could be multiple applications that you can mix native applications with some HTML5 applications. So it's really up to you what kind of applications you will have. Then in the middle there is a so-called cloud apps, and this is basically this this mobile as a backend application code. So the and here on the right hand side you have so-called mobile services, and these are basically connectors to some systems that your application will have to talk. So this part here is deployed in the cloud-like infrastructure, which I will discuss later, and basically it also adds this this code into the application and delivers the functionality to integrate with backend systems. So all this and this are written in Node.js. So this is the framework that we use, which, as I mentioned, is non-blocking I/O. Has non-blocking I/O model. So first thing is to really create that structure. You may build each of those applications from the scratch in the platform. However, you can import your existing applications. Especially we talk here about the mobile applications because this is typically what is being developed outside of the platform. When your application is imported, it is also technically possible to implement to develop the application on the platform. What you can see here is really all the screenshots. They are from web browser, so you work with the platform using the web browser. But you know, this kind of editors, they are not really very useful. The things which are useful, for example, is Forms Builder, which lets you build form-based applications. So if you have want to build mobile application which consists just of some forms which are just reading, sending some data to backends, you can build it here from the scratch using drag and drop editor. However, the thing is that what we really focus on is to have a source code of your application here, so that we can have a control over build process of your application. So we have a cloud build farm, which you can leverage to compile and to build your application. So this is if you are experienced with mobile development, especially over the time, you will experience that there are many versions of mobile frameworks delivered by mobile OS vendors, and in order to be consistent, to have a control, to avoid to install specific versions on developer environment, you can leverage that build farm. So when you build your application, this could be mobile or backend application. You can define the life cycle of it. So you can define staging environments and the pipeline, delivery pipeline for your application. So basically you can create a staging environment and execute different kind of tests. And what is also very important is that you can link here specific versions of one application with another. So you can define the dependencies where you will say that my mobile application in version X has to or can run only with some service, so with some cloud application or with some mBaas service in version Y. And then, and of course, when you are ready to move your application into the live, There is a number of ways how you can do it. So you can, for example, automate the process of deploying your mobile application into the public store. So there are some integrations with some popular open mobile application stores where you can automate the process. You can also build a private store. So if you are creating applications, mobile applications for your employees or for some closed organization, you might create a private store as part of the platform and distribute applications via that store. And the last thing here is mBaas services. So as I mentioned, there is a quite large library of out-of-the-box services that you can leverage. So connectors to different technologies. As I mentioned, it's all based on Node.js. So basically, any Node.js library could be deployed here and exposed as a service, and could be integrated with mobile application. What is here very important in this platform is the execution environment for this mobile backend. So it is based on the technology called OpenShift. So this technology is a cloud has a cloud architecture, so scale-out architecture. It is based on the Docker technology and Kubernetes cluster manager. So this is part of the larger solution that we as a Red Hat offer, which basically aims at running Docker-based applications in clustered enterprise-ready environment. So this platform, out of the box, offers functionalities like auto-scaling, for example, which basically monitors the traffic, and depending on the size of the traffic, could scale out your service. It's all based on a Docker. So what happens under the hood is that the mBaas services and those cloud applications, they are built, they are packaged into Docker images, and then the platform is executing, starting the Docker containers based on this on those images. And the platform itself is really very generic, so you can run basically any kind of Docker container. You just need the image, and then you can run it, and run it in the clustered scale-out environment. So I suppose most of you know Docker. But what is the role of Red Hat in Docker? So Docker is a project, is an open source project, and Docker is a company as well. So we are the second contributor in the Docker project. However, we use Docker only as a consistent packaging format. So we leverage Docker technology to build Docker images. We use Docker runtime in our Red Hat Enterprise Linux, but all the orchestration, developer, support for DevOps, so automation in development is developed by ourselves. As I mentioned, for Cluster Manager, we collaborate with Google on Kubernetes. For DevOps support, we built a lot of our own technologies and solutions. Okay, there are some proof points. So you might ask, why should we use this technology and this approach and not anything else, or why don't we build it ourselves? So first of all, there is a Forrester Wave report which was released over a year ago, and in this report we are, as you can see here, on the top right position, which means that we have the strongest strategy in this area. So basically we have the most complete vision of the platform. I believe that this year we should be even higher, because we have added some new important functionalities into the platform. There's also quite a lot of customers who are already using that platform. Just to name two of them, actually the one I cannot name, but maybe you might recognize, the operator of the rail infrastructure in UK is using that platform to manage their portfolio of mobile applications. They create both business to business and business to customer applications. So they have different types of users, internal, external. So they are managing all the infrastructure using that platform. There's also a lot of use cases where this platform is being used for workforce management. So there are more and more companies who employ their workforce with some smartphones or tablets, and when those employees they do some work somewhere outside. Like in this example, we have the elevator service, but this could be any type of service that works somewhere in the field. It's quite easy to design and to run the application, which will be able to monitor and to register the activities of the employees on that platform, and this is a use case which has been implemented by number of our customers. So this basically concludes the part about the mobile platform itself. You have any questions now regarding the technology? Something unclear for you? So I will spend a few minutes on the more, let's say, generic topic, which is about the way how Red Hat innovates. So basically, I don't know how well you know Red Hat. This is quite busy and maybe boring slide, but in general, Red Hat has been started in 1993 by a group of people who are involved in Linux kernel development. And basically the innovation they did at that time was that they recognized the gap between the quality of open source community projects and the expectations of the corporate customers to leverage and to use that technology. So what they did, they started a company which was offering support, not only support, but also the physical distribution of the software, because at that time there was really no internet, so they were distributing the software and they were providing the support. And this is basically more or less the model that we keep until now. So all the innovations, all the new projects, or the new solutions which are finally offered by Red Hat, they are started as open source projects by open communities. Some of those projects, they are started by Red Hat employees. Some of them, they are the result of some acquisitions that we did or we do. Even we had a number of acquisitions where we had acquired closed source companies. and we have open sourced their products because this is basically how we want and we develop our products for over 20 years now. And you might recognize some of those projects. These are the names of the open community projects which are developing platforms which are foundation for our commercial offering. So basically what happens here is that we took a version of open community platform. We stabilize that version, so we fix all the issues, we stabilize the code. Also we do some security audits, some legal audits, and finally we produce our own binaries, so separate binaries of the products which are offered to customers in a subscription model, so without any license. And what is quite interesting, at least for me, recently, a few weeks ago, basically, Red Hat was named by Forbes as one of the most innovative companies. So I spent some time to try to understand what does it really mean to be named as an innovative company by Forbes, because as you know, Forbes is very much a business-oriented company. So when you look on the criteria that they used, it's quite interesting. So basically, what they did, they choose they rank just companies which has at least 7 years of public financial data, and they have over $10 billion market capitalization. So this ranking only includes a really well-established and long-running companies. Like you can see, for example, Facebook, which is also, I think, no question about it, quite innovative company, was not included because they are not publicly listed. They also exclude by default all the startups or unicorns, which are still more or less fed by the equity money. They also look at the industries that are really known to innovate, to invest in innovation, and that and where this could be really calculated. So for example, IT, communication, consumer products, goods, pharmaceutical. On the other hand, they excluded the industries which are not really investing in innovation, but they typically just buy the results of someone else's innovation. So no banks, energy or mining or this kind of companies. And finally, they did some calculation, which is called innovation premium, which basically is checking or is calculating how well the company monetize the innovation. So how effective is the company in commercializing innovative solutions. And now I have a question for you. Who, in your opinion, might be the winner of this rank? It's not Red Hat, to make it easier. Who? No IT. Any one more idea, and then I will give you a hint which should make it easier for you. Okay, so you are all from Serbia. So who was not all? Okay, one guy not from Serbia. Okay, so I hope that all people from Serbia know who is the famous innovator. Exactly, yeah. Not he. It's Tesla Motors. So this is the company which has won that ranking, which I also find quite interesting to be positioned with that company. The last thing which is interesting in this ranking is a question: who from IT is in the top 50 list of that ranking? So there was Oracle. Any other idea who might be there?
Microsoft probably isn't.
Yes, it isn't. Yeah. No, it isn't. Yeah. So it's it's also quite interesting for me that you will not find here any traditional supplier of a technology for enterprise customers in let's say in general, but also in our region. So actually, Salesforce is the only brand that you might know and might be using, which is really ahead of Red Hat. So I think it's quite interesting. Okay, so that's all from me. Thank you very much for your time. I hope you find it interesting and useful. If you have any questions, comments, you can reach me if you manage to note my email address. Thank you.